So 3 weeks tomorrow, we planted 7 beds of spent mushroom compost. I'm going to give an update on how it's going. This is rocket arugula. It's doing really well. Behind that, almost a week later, we had planted spinach. About 4 or 5 days actually after we had planted the arugula here. Most everything else was planted 3 weeks ago. So we've got dill here, which is doing very well. 3 rows of that. Parsley came up a little bit late, but it's coming up. The beans, actually, pole beans, we planted about 4 or 5 days after everything else, and most of those came up, but I did have to replant about 4 or 5. Right here, these 3, these 2, they didn't come up at all, so I replanted those about a week ago or so. So they're coming up pretty good. On this side, we've got watermelon over there, and haven't thinned those out yet, but I'll do that. Cantaloupe. We got more cantaloupe over here. And behind that, about less than 2 weeks ago, planted garlic. And most of those have come up. Still some that hasn't come up yet. Over here we've got squash in the 2 mounds. In the middle row is cucumbers, and all of those look really good. And sunflowers on that row right there. Again, some of that hasn't been thinned out either. Spinach, 5 rows of that. Transplanted the sweet potato slips a couple weeks ago, and most of those look like they're going to be fine. We've got one here that didn't make it. It was kind of a really small slip and just didn't take. And then we've got corn in the last bed, and that looks like it's doing pretty well. Where it gets water a little bit better on that side, it's about almost 18 inches tall. Some of that needs to be thinned out as well. So these 2 beds were planted March 15th, and some of the things I just planted a couple of weeks ago. We've got basil there, dill that just planted recently, but the potatoes were planted March 15th, the onions back there, tomatoes March 15th, and these 2 beds are organic compost, not the mushroom compost. So the 7 beds, starting with the corn, and these 6 beds here were spent mushroom compost that we planted again 3 weeks tomorrow, and so far so good.